Hello, it's Donna Cravata, and we are here with the real 50 over 50. And our incredible woman over 50 today is Beth Knause. So I just want to give you a quick intro, and then she's going to take over and fill in the blanks that I left out. She's a creative copywriter and the owner of That's a Spade Copywriting Services and the co host of the Unmute Yourself podcast. She's passionate about helping women entrepreneurs getting comfortable in their greatness and confident with sharing it. Beth, you want to fill in any blanks I left out?
Yeah, sure. I love working with women who are at that point where they realize they've been playing surface and they're ready to dive a little deeper because they're saying the same things that other people in their industry are saying. And the typical woman I work with has a dynamic personality and a bold voice, and maybe they're a little edgy and fun or intense about, how they feel. And it's really hard to walk that fine line between honoring that part of yourself and making sure you also honor your level of expertise and professionalism. And so I help them build that out in their copy for their websites or their blogs or, emails or about pages or sales pages, whatever it is that they need copy for.
That's great. And then their copy is out there working for them in their true voice while they're doing other things.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I got some questions for you. You ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So I'm going to start with what changed for you after 50?
Wow, that's such a loaded gun, that question, right? So many things. So I'm 56 now, and after I turned 50, my third child went off to college, and before that, my husband and I'm remarried. We planned on downsizing, and when we started to talk about it, I actually had spent 35 years in the beauty industry before I became an official writer, and I said, I'm not cutting hair in the basement anymore when we moved. And so I started to write. And so that was a wonderful change for me, to be able to go in and finally do what I had been waiting to do for a long time. We located to another house that was ours. I just felt like I just became confident about doing the things I wanted to do for myself, knowing that my kids, and I know you relate to this, were very self
Yeah.
sufficient and healthy and just capable, good human beings. And I put a lot of time into that. And now it's time for me. I really felt like I think it is really time for me, right? We say that we want that time.
Well, yeah,
And
it's a process, right?
yeah,
It's a process. It's like you say it before you actually believe it, right?
right, right. Yeah. So it's good. The 50s have been good, and I really trusted that they would be, and they are.
Yeah, that's great. And from what I hear from some other women in this group that are well beyond their 50s, it only gets better.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. I Last night I was at a meeting, and there was a woman who was speaking there about what she did, and she asked all of us to write down what are we afraid of in the next 10 years. And I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." And I wrote, I fear having to slow down.
Oh, I like that.
I feel like I have this time now to do what I love to do and to spend time with my kids. I have the time and flexibility. I love to spend time with my husband. We've never been without kids before, and so I just I want to be able to do all the things I've been waiting to do. So
That's great. And Laura Lee is chiming in from the audience on LinkedIn, and I know she's got a bunch of kids too, so she gets this. And let me see what else I have for you here. So I'm going to go with the fun one now. I was looking through your website, and I found that you like the B side of records.
I
So
do, I do, and actual records, right?
records.
And-
Well, I get that too because this is what I have on my desk, and I've actually named products and services after it.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Um, what 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 are some of your favorites?
So I don't know if I could come up with favorites, but all I can tell you is that the reasoning behind that for me
Mm.
is when something becomes popular and you hear it over and over and over again, I would just get so sick of it. Like I would want something fresh or new or, um, just not listening to what everybody else was listening to.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
And I used to be the one who I had a great-grandfather who bought me 45s for every birthday when I was younger, so
Mhm.
on rainy days, we were allowed to bring them into school for recess time, in the gym, and I was the one with the biggest collection. I would always be arguing like, Play the other side, play the other side of the record," because I didn't wanna hear the same thing that was on the radio and
Yeah,
Spotify and everything else, so, yeah,
always the trendsetter, huh?
yeah, a little bit of a nonconformist.
Yeah, my older sister is 9 years older than me, so I was born in 1964, so, like, I was in utero when the Beatles came, so everything was the Beatles. My younger brother's name is Paul, he was named after Paul McCartney.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we were raised with lots of music, and, I love the B-side too. It's where you find the things that, I always feel like those are the songs that the artists really loved,
Right.
and they probably, like, fought for them to be on, somewhere, but it wasn't gonna be the number 1 hit, right? Well,
Yeah,
which it might have been, but, the record companies didn't deem them to be the number 1 hit, and they fought for it to be on the backside of that record. That's what I always thought about them. Alright, I'm gonna
yeah,
keep going, and let me know if I'm missing anything or there's something else that you wanna talk about. So, one of the things that I found on your website too was that, for 2023, one of the words that you chose, was exposure. Do you wanna share any other words or, like, what this means to you or what you hope the impact is?
sure. So I know a lot of people like to choose one word and focus on that, but again, being the nonconformist, I like having 3 words because I can
Mhm.
kind of use it as a little bit of a mantra, if I get off track or something. So my words this year are exposure, encourage, and allow. And
Ooh.
yeah, a lot of us say like, "Oh, I wanna speak," or "I wanna
Mhm.
write," or "I wanna do these things," but unless you do them, you're not exposing yourself, right? And unless you tell people that you wanna do those things and put it out there, you're not getting the exposure that you need for that to happen, right? Um, and so that was a big thing for me was to do that. So I actually have spoken in a few networking groups. I'm on here with you and I'm reaching out to do things that maybe I wouldn't normally have done previously. And that does take encouragement, but people have to know you need the encouragement. So I, have a couple of close, business besties and such where I'll say, can you, just help me, push me along when you see me hesitating to do these things that I could possibly get the chance to do. And then of course the allow piece goes with that, right? When it happens, you have to allow it to happen and make it work and make the space for it and try not to hesitate or resist, which is easy, right, to
Yeah.
do upfront if you get nervous about something. And I just listened to a great book. I listened to The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Mhm.
I thought it was going to be totally different because towards the end of the book, she talks about saying yes to no, right? That
Mhm.
once you know how to say yes, then you have to be a little more refined about where are you saying yes and can you say
Mhm.
no, which I think is a really important point. And, yeah, so things come along, I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna do that. Yes, I'll help you edit that collection of stories. Yes, I'll, do this or that." And, um, so we'll see how that goes. So far it's working out pretty well.
So what's happened that surprised you so far?
Well, so one of the things I just did for the first time was I spoke in a networking group and I had to do a slide presentation, which I'd never done before. And I was like sweating over the slide presentation. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I am going to do this slide presentation. So I went on Canva and did it take me 3 hours? Yes. Did I make the slide presentation? Yes. Did anybody know that I had never done it before? No. Right. And it was about stuff I knew. And I just felt so accomplished afterwards and so confident that I did this thing. And I spoke in another group. I had to put a presentation together and it's just coming more naturally. And I would like to do more of that, maybe bigger groups or we'll see. We'll see what that holds.
That's great. Well, one thing leads to another, right?
Absolutely.
And, once you're open to those opportunities, they also start to show up. And when you make the space for them, like you said earlier, um, because if you're busy doing things that you don't really wanna be doing, there's no space to do the things that you want.
Right.
Um, that
I
was
Sorry. I just keep, thinking to myself, "Well, what happens if I don't do it?" Right? How am I gonna
Mhm.
feel if I don't do it? And I say all the time, like, "I'm on the back nine." Like, I wanna take some chances and some risks and do some things that I wanna do, so
I know, but when we're the people that are, um, you know, like, in the driver's seat of taking care of other people, full time,
Mhm.
it doesn't occur to us to say yes to things because
Right,
there's so many other things before us,
right,
and there's an adjustment period of, remembering or realizing that, "Oh, I don't have to say no. I don't have to bring a kid somewhere. I don't
right,
need to cook for 5 people." I don't have 17 loads of laundry to do, whatever it might be. There's more space, and we need to really be mindful of how we fill that because we can easily fill it with things that we're used to filling it with and find other things to do that are more familiar to us than stepping out of our comfort zone and creating presentations and speaking to groups of new people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's like the safety, right? When
Yeah.
"Oh, I'd love to do that, but I have these
Oh,
kids, I have this house, I have this job."
yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, let's see what else I have on my list for you. Um, this is a question I really like, and I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. And when I saw this word pop up on your website, I knew I wanted to talk to you about it as well because I had such a good chat with somebody about this yesterday. What does legacy mean to you?
Yeah, so legacy is such an interesting word, and, you and I had discussed earlier that a lot of people think of legacy being financial, and for me, it's, what are you leaving behind?
Mm,
And what are you teaching? Not only what are you leaving behind, how is it going to make things better, right, for the next generation? What are you teaching? What have you learned that you can say, "This didn't work, do better than I did with this thing," or, "This is how you do better," or, we want the world to improve and we want
yeah,
it to, we each have to participate in that for it to happen, even though for some people they think, "Oh, what can I do that's gonna make it change?" But if I start to encourage women to communicate more about their differentiator and with confidence and owning their originality, what will they teach to the next person that they get to teach? And, is that legacy going to just be for one generation or is it something that's going to build and go on, right? When you think about how you can pass, the bar and each time it gets passed, it's greater and greater, and
yeah,
it's got more strength. And so, I hope that I can leave some writing behind, obviously, and, some thought leadership type stuff and just ways for people to open their perspective. But, I think about it with my kids all the time. Like, what am I teaching them that they're going to have things better, easier, more than I did? And I think that's how we are in everything, right?
yeah, yeah. I know. I really feel a sense of responsibility because people our age have really left a big old mess, created a big mess,
Mm.
and I feel this heaviness about leaving this to my child and, people of his generation and your children's generation, and, I just keep thinking, like, everything is also moving so fast.
Mhm.
So, like, we're almost like the keepers of the way the world was, and it's not going to be anymore. So we're like this bridge of being able to kind of bring over this knowledge of the way people lived in the past, and a lot of that absolutely needs to go away, but not everything, We need to
Right.
keep some of that and bring it forward. And I just feel a sense of responsibility around that, and that's kind of how legacy is feeling for me these days, and that's why um, this 50 over 50 thing that we're doing feels really important to me because I think we all have important stories and wisdom and knowledge,
Yeah.
and pulling this together in a way that we can be heard. So far, I've had about 40 people that have submitted their, completed surveys with all of their information, and I've got over 100 that said yes. So I'm still waiting for a lot more to come in, And one of the questions that I ask is the size of people's audiences because I want to be able to bring this to the media, like what we're doing. And so far, we have a collective reach of over 200,000 people.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So, I mean, I think we can do a lot. And I'm really I'm excited to see what we can do. I keep trying to stay like in the background and not have expectations or anything like that because I want to see what happens if it just germinates on its own. But I think we got something here.
No, I do too. And one of the things I run in with writing when I'm helping women with their stuff is that I say, everybody's got, it's really great if you have a degree or you have certifications and all that sort of stuff, but that's not a differentiator, right? Probably everybody in your industry has those same
Mhm.
credentials that you have. So that's not, it's great that you have it, but it's not anything different. So go back into your life and look at experiences. I'm not saying open a vein and tell everybody your most intimate secrets, but all of
Mhm.
those things taught you something, right? Knowledge, experience, perspective, skills, talents, like those are the things that make you do what you do the way that you do it, different than somebody else. And everybody is so like, "Ooh, I don't wanna talk about that." Well, you don't have to talk about all of it. You have to talk about what strengths you gained from it, right? What abilities. And, I think that's tough. Because we do have these generational things where we don't wanna talk about certain things, or there's shame and embarrassment tied to certain things, and, you know, we take responsibility for other people's actions and choices, and we're not responsible for it, right? So I could go on and on.
Well, it's important, and the thing is that people, it's hard to sometimes see this because I get the same thing in in my work. Um, I get people that oh, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to multitask here. I get people that don't see the gaps in their stories. And
Yeah.
when they have those gaps in their stories, they have gaps in their communication. So it's hard to see for yourself.
Mhm.
And sometimes you just need somebody to take all of your things and look at them from like a higher level and see where the pieces go together because sometimes they could see what you can't see about your own stuff.
Yeah, and the good stuff, right? These things that
Yeah,
people are hiding and feel badly about, and you can say, "Oh, but what about this? That means that you learned X," or I mean, I remember going through resumes. My ex-husband is a podiatrist, he had an office, and so I would help with the hiring of people, and they would send a resume, and I would look through and be like, "Oh, they had this job at an ice cream shop, so that means they know about customer service, they know how to use a cash register, they know how to," and be like, "Well, they don't have any medical experience." I'm like, "They'll learn the medical piece, but they have these other abilities that are
right.
going to make it easy for them to learn that." And,
Yeah,
again, it's like a B-side thing, right? Like, just dive a little
yeah,
deeper into what someone's
yeah,
presenting you because there's so
yeah.
much.
Yeah, and I've also found when people are really good at something, they just do it naturally, and they don't realize that this is their little sweet spot, you know? And they think, "Well, of everybody knows how to do this. Like, why would I well, this isn't special."
Right, exactly, and to somebody else, it's this weakness, and they're
Yeah,
sweating over it going, "If I could just do that thing that that other person does,"
exactly.
and there's
Yeah,
value.
and that's something you don't realize till you're 50.
Right, exactly, exactly, without a doubt.
But so like from this whole thing that we're doing, like I'm sitting here trying to not have an expectation, but do you have an expectation? Is there anything that you would like to see come from it or whatever? I mean, just share.
So, yeah, I feel like in many things around me, we're hearing a lot of buzz about how women, particularly once they get into their 60s or older, are just not seen as valid. And yet at the same time, now we're looking at, how long are we going to live? right? How long are we actually going to work? Because we are going to have to work longer if we're going to live longer. And what
Mhm.
do we want to do with that time? And yet, this is the time I feel like where women blossom, like you said. We get to this point, our children are grown, we see our success with that and other parts of our life, and we're ready now to like step it up, not to be dismissed by any means. Um, and I think it's just such a powerful time. And, sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, I can't wait to retire." Retire?
I
Like,
can't even imagine.
I want to retire from the other things I was doing, but now I really want to like have something that, lights my fire when I sit down to do it and talk about it. And um, I just think it's just such a great time, and it's great to acknowledge it and to let other
Mhm.
people know, to let younger women know, to let older women know that we support them. And, we are a force to be
We
reckoned
are a
with.
force. We
Um,
are a force. One of the things that's been this whole thing has been incredibly interesting. But there are younger people that wanna be in, and I'm like, "I'm not bending the rules because if I bend the rules for one, it's a rule I don't wanna bend. You had to earn your key you had to earn your way here, you know?"
absolutely
It's not like, I can extend a coupon code for a weekend or something. This is
right.
this is
That's so
different.
funny. And that's a great sign, right? That's a great sign that they see that there's knowledge in this
Yeah.
time of your life as a woman. And so for a long time, I did group presentations at like independent and assisted living facilities, council on aging, libraries, and I met a lot of older people, especially older women. And we look at them at that point physically as kind of
Mm,
frail and limited, or even, starting to lose memories and things like that. The stories and the wisdom that these women have, you can't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody's in a wheelchair doesn't mean they weren't a wild child of the 70s, or, you know, hanging out with Gloria Steinem or doing really incredible things. And I think that's an important piece for people to
yeah.
know.
It really is. It really is. And, like, over the past year, I redesigned my whole business. And there's days where like, this is the best thing I ever did. I'm so happy. And then there's days like, what the hell am I doing? Like I'm 58 years old. Why am I still reinventing myself? And I was having one of those days and I spoke to one of the women that's involved with this Real 50 Over 50 project. And she was doing the same thing at 75.
Wow.
And I was so inspired. I was
Yeah.
so inspired because we were in the exact same place. And she's 17 years older than I am.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and we're going to see so much more of that moving
Yeah,
forward. So,
yeah, it's really good. Um, anything else you wanna share?
um, I don't know. I think we covered a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
I just want to, encourage, there's my word, my middle word, encourage women to
Mm,
really, embrace where you've been and embrace who you are. And, don't be afraid to show yourself to people. You deserve that for people to know what's special about you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, I agree. We are all special, and, um, I love when, we can come together in groups, and there are different things that are special about each one of us, and then they just start to click in these new and interesting ways. It's like a little science fair project going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
And, so, tell me what you've got going on for, like, the next couple of months or anything interesting you've got going on that you would wanna share with people?
so one of the things is that I have a podcast. And I really love it. It's just something that I started for fun. I have a co-host, and we actually talk a lot about issues that concern women. Not that they don't concern men, but a lot of it is about how do you stand up and how do you speak out? How do you unmute yourself? And I had edited a book for her, and that's how this all came to be. And we've tackled a lot of interesting topics like kin keeping or the happiness curve, or, how do you negotiate at work? How do you handle feedback you didn't ask for? Or, situations where women tend to clam up. And I think that, women need that from so many different places. So that's something we're focusing on. And personally, I've been doing that hesitation thing on my own personal writing. I It's so much easier for me to say I have client work, and I know that has to change. So I'll be looking to get a little bit more into my own personal writing, and then just meeting some really cool clients that need help communicating, about themselves in their
Yeah,
content.
yeah, yeah, communication is, clear communication and sharing your story is going to get more and more
Oh yeah.
needed as the online world gets more and more cluttered with copy paste from AI tools.
Yep. Yep. That's another
So
episode.
you wanna yeah, the differentiator is gonna be a very important model.
Absolutely, I agree. And just the storytelling piece, right?
Yeah,
And being able to put it out there.
I think that that's a big part of the legacy that we talked about.
Yeah, and more, right, for women who work for themselves, because if you're just one person, you are selling yourself. You're selling who you are personally. And
Yeah,
yes, SEO counts and all that other stuff, but everybody's out there again using SEO who's in your industry. So if you can't take that, incorporate it into some strategic storytelling that shows people, you know, what's the big hoo-ha about who you are, um, that's how you're going to stand out and get business and be happy with what you're doing.
and build trust.
Yes, the building of trust, right? The relatability of the things, and that's really the magic when it happens, when you're brave enough to take that step and say those personal things. Yes, are there people that it turns away? And I always say, "Get them out of the
Right.
way. 'Cause the people back who relate to you need to come up front," and
Yeah,
that's how it works.
yeah, yeah, we also need to be realistic about what we actually need
Yes.
because most of us don't need very much.
Yep. Yes, I would
So,
agree.
yeah, so focusing on what, you know what the people that you can actually really help, and this all leans into the legacy as well because, the legacy part isn't just with family, it's with clients too because like you said, it's personal. This is us.
Yeah.
This isn't, I'm not like Macy's or, you know, Stop and Shop. I'm me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is great. This is great. Any last words before we wrap it up?
No, I think this was awesome. I just really want to commend you, Donna, for not only having this idea, but everything that you put into it and the time and the vision to bring all of us together. I think this is just the beginning of a pretty big thing.
Yeah, it is just the beginning. It wakes me up at night. I know when things wake me up at night, they're good.
That we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
And I thank you for being part of it, and thank you everybody for coming. And we're having these interviews every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, live on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you can come live, great. If not, come back and listen to the replays, interact in the feeds, meet these women, visit the website, which is thereal50over50.com, where you can connect with everybody. Everybody's got a page with all of their information. You can connect with them on social, get on their websites. But this is, I'm the only one that has really um, um, kind of seen everything so far. And it blows me away. So
Mm,
go visit, connect with all of these amazing women because we're all here to change lives, to leave an impact, to create a legacy, and to get shit done. So, thank you for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thanks, Donna.